Right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to be talking about a research study that's entitled Project Phoenix. We'll go into what Project Phoenix stands for. But today we're going to be talking about inclusion of autistic users in the design of virtual reality experiences. Project Phoenix is a research project at the University of Florida. It stands for Participatory, Human-Centered, Equitable, Neurodiverse, Inclusive, Extended Reality. Try and say that 3 times fast. Let me talk a little bit about why we're doing this research. So I think that many of you probably, based on our keynote previously, may be aware of the term neurodiversity. Autism is a manifestation of neurodiversity. Project Phoenix is a project that is aimed to address a lack of representation of autistic people in the design of XR experiences. This is because although virtual reality and XR experiences have long been seen as potentially useful for autistic users, there's been a woeful lack of support for autistic people in the design, a lack of inclusion in the design of these environments. Ultimately, the majority of research that's been done centering around the use of virtual reality for autistic participants has been designed and implemented by non-autistic people. When autistic people are included, they're typically included as evaluators or as research subjects, not as co-designers or as participants in the design and research project. In addition to that, research consistently shows that there is a mismatch between the values, preferences, and needs of the autistic community and the kinds of research that is actually performed on them. And note that I use the term performed on them and not performed with them. That's an important distinction. And if you don't believe me, we can take a look at some of the recent meta-analyses and systematic literature reviews that have come out. This is one from Mesa Grayson in 2018. It's starting to get a little bit dated now, but research that has followed this, there are at least 3 systematic literature reviews that follow this that show the exact same trend. And what we can see here is that the majority of research, fully 66% of the research, focuses on social skills and emotional skills. This is not surprising because if we take a look at the DSM-5's definition of autism, it points out those 2 issues as being particularly problematic. But there's a whole lot of other things that people are doing to investigate the use of VR with these autistic participants that tends to receive less attention. Now let's take a look at some of the work that Harris did. He went out and actually did research with the autistic community to see what their values, preferences, priorities, and needs are. And what you can see based on this is that the big ones have to do with these people actually being people, not research participants. People with autism care about what am I going to do when I'm done with high school. They care about what am I going to do for the remainder of my life. Am I going to have a girlfriend? Am I going to have an apartment? Am I going to have a job? And they care about their health and well-being. How am I able to take care of myself? How am I able to fend for myself in an adult society? So as you can see, focusing on emotional issues, focusing on communication, social skills, that is the perception of the research community as a priority, whereas the mismatch is very clear when you go to the autistic community. Therefore, our positionality, we want to engage autistic people in the co-production of research that's relevant to them. We want to explore alternative research that diverges from predominant perspectives, looking at strengths, preferences, lived experiences of autistic people. And you'll note that I'm not saying people with autism spectrum disorders or people with autism. That is person-first language, but interestingly enough, person-first language was also developed without the input of people who have the disabilities that that this is supposed to be sensitive to. And indeed, research is emerging that shows that identity-first language tends to be the preference of many autistic people. And for that reason, we adopt identity-first language in our own research. So on that note, I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Liu.
Thank you. Okay, so for Project Phoenix, the project actually underwent an iterative design research approach. So phase one, we developed the first version of Phoenix with autistic users from a UF center, UF CAR Center for Autism Research and Disability. But in this presentation, we're going to focus on phase two and phase three, especially the methodology that we took to approach our autistic participants. Okay, so because the focus of the presentation is on phase two and phase three, but we do have our design paper published, which is like everything about phase one. So if you're interested, you can take out your phone and scan this QR code, or you can just like do this tiny URL. It's just like LXD stands for Learning Experience Design, LXD Phoenix. All right. So where do we stand as the researchers? Our aim is to investigate the usability and user experience of Project Phoenix, the virtual environment, for supporting the co-design and collaborative research with autistic stakeholders. Okay, so methodology. So we have 3 virtual reality spaces developed for this research project, and participants completed those 3 sessions in total. So first of all, they will spend about 30 minutes on their own exploring the training session, which is a space to learn how to navigate the VR environment. And then for the second and then the third phase, they are just galleries. Gallery 1 is a space about VR for autistic people. So they're going to learn what VR is and then how VR applications have been applied to research about autism. So this session uses about like 45 to 1 hour. And then the last gallery, which is gallery 2, is a space focused on the various social VR software. So we basically present those social VR software to the autistic participants. And then by the end, we embedded a number of interactive activities. We asked them to rate their personal opinion to the presented social VR software in terms of how they can potentially use the VR software for themselves.
And an important point about this research is that we're performing this research entirely online at a distance and within VR spaces, which to our knowledge is the first approach to do this in this way. Typically, you have single user environments used in a lab.
Okay. So here's an overview of the participants that took part in our research. So for phase 2 demographics, we recruited about 6 participants, but 1 participant dropped out. And then for phase 3, we recruited 5. They are like different participants. And then for phase 3, 1 participant was not able to commute to campus. And I'll just take that for time issue. Okay, the procedures. So the procedures used in phase 2 and phase 3 were entirely identical. To start off, we did a task-based thinking aloud while immersed in the space with the participant. So the participants shared their thoughts and feeling about their experience navigating, like, did they encounter a technical issue? Like, do they have opinions about the color use or like everything else? And then after each session was completed, we administered 2 surveys. The first one is the computer system usability questionnaire, short for CSUB. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard that or used that. That questionnaire has 4 dimensions: the overall, the perceived ease of use, the content, and something else. Information quality. I'm so sorry. Information quality. And then the second one is actually a self-developed social validity survey, which aims to assess the goals and the procedures of autistic participants, because they're very sensitive, and we want to make sure that our goals are relative, and then our procedures are appropriate for them. All right, about data collection. So on the left is the data collection in phase 2, which is individual. So we mask the participant, and then we actually put all the views collected from the session, and then we also input the transcript, so we can do a very in-depth analysis. And then this is phase 3, where we have all the participants in one session. So it's a collaborative session. So we have P1, P2, P3, P4, and then this is the helper / the facilitator's view. Okay.
And P stands for participant, just to be very clear about that.
Okay, so to assess the system usability, we actually perform analysis of system performance. This is the formula that we use to calculate the task effectiveness. And please go ahead. In addition to that, we also calculated the task efficiency, which is the overall relative efficiency. We can go ahead. For the qualitative part, we actually employed a theme, which is actually the ISO standard for usability. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 components: appropriateness, recognizability, learnability, operability, user interface aesthetics, and satisfaction. I do want to point out that the learnability for the second row, it has the word learn in it, right? But it does not consider any learning perspective. It's simply the degree of like the ease of use for the participants to learn to use the system. Okay, so let's take a look at the results section. I'll be very quick. So after phase 2, the individual usability sessions, we identified 58 usability problems, and 21 were level 2, 13 were level 3, and 7 were level 4. These levels were actually we used the Nielsen's system usability severity scale. And then out of the 58 problems, 52 were resolved. And you can see the green bars, they were like how many were resolved. And then the only remaining issue were like minor and cosmetic issue, because people have different preferences in terms of color and everything. All right, let's go ahead. So here's the result of the CSAT questionnaire. And please note that the scores below the benchmark indicate above the average usability. This is simply because the way the CSAT is designed. It is from strongly agree to strongly disagree. So actually, the lower the number is, the better the results are. All right, and continuing that, you can see that our space, like the Phoenix environment in phase 2, performed above the average on every single dimension. All right, and here is the result of the phase 3 testing, and we improved even more. And remember, the lower the number is, the better the results it represents. All right, go ahead. So the social validity scores, remember, we used a self-developed social validity survey to assess if our goals and procedures were appropriate for autistic participants. And the orange ones represent the phase 2 results, and then the blue ones represent the phase 3 results. So after phase 2, we actually adjusted a little bit in terms of our procedure and protocol, and apparently we did well, so that works. All right, and I talked about system effectiveness and system efficiency, and here's the result. The benchmark established by this researcher was like 78, and for our phase 2 usability study, we Project Phoenix performed above the average, and for phase 3, actually all of the participants were able to complete the task effectively and efficiently. So what's the nature of user experience of Project Phoenix perceived by our autistic participants? Here are the actual quotes that we pulled from our transcripts. So I'll just read one of them from Max. She said the interactions for her are all incredibly simple, straightforward, to the point, and very and easy to understand. Let's go ahead. 3 more, and from Mark. You hear music coming from the screen, right? Of course, if I back away, it's not a stall, and that's pretty cool. I like the sound proximity. That's actually one of the affordance of our VR on space. All right, thank you. Discussion and implications. I'll pass the mic back to Dr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. So again, our purpose with this research is to promote empathetic, inclusive design and research. And what we found from the findings of our formative design was that our outcomes suggest that we have a highly relevant environment, and that the learning experiences here are highly relevant to autistic participants. That we are beginning to discover novel directions for our research and practice. So this is research that to date has not been a priority. So this is interesting to see. We're also seeing that our approach of including autistic users in the design of these environments is leading to the removal of barriers that have traditionally encumbered VR research with these participants. And ultimately, the work is going to foreground, or is foregrounding, the voices and perspectives of autistic users. getting to some of the more brass tacks and theoretical aspects of this work, what we have here is an approach that cultivates multimodal usability. Most research in educational technology or learning technologies tends to take a unimodal approach. Let's call usability a survey, for example. But what we've done is adopted a multimodal approach. We have incorporated usability and UX from the very get-go. And that's where we end up. Let's talk a little bit about our future research directions. We have just concluded phase 4 of our research. We are now in the process of doing data analysis of phase 4. What we did from phase 1 to phase 3 was entirely UX focused, incorporating the perspectives of our autistic users in the design and development of this research and development project. Now that we move into phase 4, we're actually looking at the outcomes. What are the needs, preferences, values, et cetera, of the autistic users that we have intended to engage? So that is something that's beginning to emerge now from this research. And what we're doing is we're performing focus groups with groups of autistic users in the VR space that we developed, that we discussed in our presentation today. So very exciting things are beginning to come out of this research. What we're showing you today essentially shows just how meticulous and difficult it can be to engage in true co-design, not participatory design, but designing these environments with neurodiverse users. That we're looking at over 2 years of research and development before we can collect our first piece of, I think, what many people would consider actionable, publishable data, right? So here we are. So it's quite an investment, but I would like to believe that it is that it's an appropriate approach. So on that note, any questions? Dr. Beck.
Are there comparable, like, non-immersive technological environments for autistic people that have similar levels of usability that you have found for your development years? I'm just curious because I was just thinking as you were presenting it, especially for the result of the survey, how would you even know like what level of usability you're shooting for or you're shooting for? You had the benchmarks, but perhaps you're aiming for something even lower than the benchmarks which you achieve. But how do you know?
So like in flat space, there's been a range of research that's been done, but seeing people who adopt a radical view of either participatory design or co-design, I'm actually working on a systematic literature review with a colleague on that, and it's abysmal. And that's me being very kind in the way I'm characterizing it. Inclusion of neurodiverse learners or participants in research, in development, is almost non-existent. We found 20 studies out of 687 that we identified. So there's not a lot. So to your question, I haven't seen anything. It just has not been a priority of the research community. Yes.
Yeah, one more question.
Yeah.
So you said this is not participatory design, it's co-design. I wonder what's the difference, and so you seem to imply that one is better than the other.
I don't mean to imply that one is better than the other. I don't want to like set up a horse race where co-design wins and participatory design loses. In fact, both exist on a continuum of inclusion within the design process. The difference comes with agency. So in terms of those who are involved in the co or participatory design process, who has the agency to make design decisions at the end of the day? When you're including people and allowing them to participate in the design process, but then it's up to the designers themselves to make the decisions about what design direction are we going to do? Are we going to take design A or design B? Are we going to implement feature A or feature B? When that decision falls on the design team and not the people who have participated in the process, that would be a participatory approach. They're allowed to participate in the design process, but they're not allowed to guide the design process. Whereas co-design, they are designers. They are involved in the design process and they have agency over design decisions. So that's the difference. Our approach was we wanted to take a radical view and to elevate the voices of autistic users more so than what we've seen in the research today. So that's why we adopted the co-design approach. Thank you for that question.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.